Hey, Eagles fans, if you're a subscriber to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, you are already registered to win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming season. That's right, you could win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming 2021 season just for being a subscriber. If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, do it now. Subscribe to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel right now. What do you need to do? Subscribe right now.
Bird 365, you got your resident Mac and Mac guys back together again. John McMullen has made it back safely from Atlanta. It took a while getting out of there yesterday, huh, JM?
Yeah, my flight left on time. I just got a late flight because I had to do Birds 365 in the morning, and then the two in-between flights were booked and packed, so I had to sit around till about 6 at night. But it happens. What can you do?
But you did made it back safe and sound. Good to have you here this morning. And listening to Nick Sirianni yesterday, he did his usual day after media stuff. Again, I'm almost getting tired of giving this guy credit, but when he earns it, he deserves it. He's got to get it. He handled it yesterday with aplomb too. Didn't overstate, didn't get overly reactive to it. I don't want to say it was just like second nature because it hasn't even gotten to his second all-time game, but he took everything in stride, handled all the questions as well, looked like business as usual. And the way that they played in game number one, if that's business as usual, we're in for a pretty damn good season, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, and we'll see. I think this is a much bigger test this week coming up, even though San Francisco is coming in Lincoln Financial Field, because we know we don't know how good, but that's a solid team. They might be a little bit above average. They might be a really good team if they figure out the quarterback position. But they're solid. You didn't know that about Atlanta. It looks like Atlanta might be really bad, but we don't know. I think this will be a better sort of test temperature taking for the Eagles, and we'll see how they handle that. It's not always going to be as easy as it was in Atlanta, but yeah, I love the way he handled the stuff. I look for little things. And when we was talking about JJ Arcega-Whiteside, I thought, okay, this guy gets it because, everybody's given JJ lauds for his blocking. He was a great blocker, but he played 15, 16 snaps. He started the game. They went bubble screens. They did it for a reason. They had him out there for a reason because he can block. And it worked early in the game. It got Jalen Hurts some confidence on those short bubble screens. And I think that's important with a young quarterback. But what he said about JJ, I thought was, look, at times we got to get him the ball because now this is on film. So you can't just signal to the defense, okay, 19's out there. They're going to run a bubble screen. and believe it or not, it sounds simple. And I joked because Nick was talking about, hey, don't get in third and longs in the red zone. That's pretty simple. But you'd be surprised how many coaches don't think like that. So I thought the fact that he brought that up and said, look, we're going to have to put on film. We're willing to give JJ the football. I thought that was good.
As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw this, but your favorite website and mine, wink, wink, nod, nod, Pro Football Focus, which at times
best blocker, yeah. Is that where you're going? Best blocker, best wide receiver blocker. Yeah.
Right. Even though I get on their case from time to time because they come out with different rankings and ratings that I just don't comprehend as a football fan. But certain times their analysis, their analytics match up exactly what I see with my own two eyes as a longtime football fan. They ranked each of the Eagles players' performance as doing their job and gave him a grade. He was actually the fourth ranked offensive Eagle player on the day. Number one was, of course, Jalen Hurts. Number two was Goddard. Number three was Devonta Smith. The fourth ranked Eagle offensive player was J-Jaw, who didn't catch anything, didn't score any touchdowns like several of his brethren, but they do certainly take into account what your job is on any given play. So he must have been really good at the blocking aspect of the game because he was their fourth-ranked offensive player as per Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was really good at what they asked him to do. So, again, when you get into pro football grades, that's another discussion. Obviously, very small sample size. I don't know how meaningful it is, other than he accomplished more often than not what he was asked to do in the game. That's kind of what the grade is for Pro Football Focus. So for what he was asked to do, he did a good job at it. And I think that's fair. I think they're right. How meaningful, I think fans get caught up. How can JJ be better than blah, 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 who has 9 catches and 2 touchdowns somewhere else? Well, because that's not what the grade is. That's not what they're doing, but it gets lost in all that context. But again, we could do 15 hours on that. The point is, Nick Sirianni is realizing, he said this constantly over the summer, Jody. We have an advantage early in the season. People don't know what we're going to do. Now they have a little bit of taste of what you're going to do. It starts now. Now the adjustments start. Now San Francisco, a good team, good coach, really good head coach. Obviously, they lost their defensive coordinator, but they've been solid for a number of years now. So they're going to watch that film. They're going to say, oh, look what they're doing. And it becomes more difficult, and you have to adjust back. That's what Chip Kelly couldn't do well. At least Nick Sirianni's already verbalizing. He already understands, I can't just do this every game. I got to mix things up because people are going to adjust to me. I think that's a great sign. I really do.
And we'll see how much adjusting he has to do here in week number 2 against San Francisco. But I think your point is an excellent one, and let me stretch it. The fact that Nick Sirianni believes, and he stated, he's on the record, that we got a little bit of an advantage here. We're going to take advantage of it. Nobody knows what the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Sirianni as their play caller are going to be, including us Eagle fans who didn't know what Nick Sirianni's play calling was going to look like. Pretty impressed with the first glance there, Coach. Nice job. But if you say that the Eagles had an advantage coming into this game because the Atlanta Falcons, the only one that mattered in week 1, didn't necessarily know what Nick was going to roll out there. Well, the Atlanta Falcons were supposed to have that same edge over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I want to talk about this, Jody. I want to talk about this.
Arthur Smith coming in. They can go back and look at the Titans tape, but they had Derrick Henry, so you didn't know if he was going to do it the same way. You doubted it. Coming in here with Atlanta. Well, Jonathan Gannon figured out all the answers after the first couple of drives when the Falcons moved the ball down the field, stalled in the red zone, had to settle for field goals. Eagle defense came up big in those situations after they kind of got shredded coming down the field. And then they throw a shutout. From there on in, they gave up like 140 yards on the first 3 possessions and only 70 yards the entire rest of the game. Well, that same advantage Atlanta should have had turned out to be zippity-doo-dah as far as an advantage goes because of Jonathan Gannon's defense.
Yeah, man. I go back to 2016. I got a 2016 feel from this game. And this is what I mean, Jody. Back in 2016, no matter what the Eagles say, revisionist history, Eagles fans forget, the Eagles wanted to hire Adam Gase to be their head coach. And there was sort of a butting of the heads, and Adam Gase, who was the hot candidate at the time, as hard as that is to believe right now, he was the guy that everybody wanted at that time in the NFL. And he wanted 53-man roster control. The Eagles had just come off Chip Kelly. They weren't going to give that. That was sort of the loggerheads. And, Adam got, the job in Miami, which is, Florida, nice weather, good tax situation, was going to be difficult to beat anyway. And it was a disaster there. And as you know, he was even more of a disaster.
How did he get his second job after what happened in Miami?
So the Eagles wanted to hire him. And when they couldn't get him, they wanted to hire Ben McAdoo. And the story is Ben McAdoo was on the New Jersey Turnpike when the Giants got him to turn around and said, no, we're going to keep you. Ben McAdoo, not Bob McAdoo, Ben McAdoo, the Eagles wanted to hire to be their head coach. And depending on who you believe, by the way, number 3 was Tom Coughlin before they ever got to Doug Peterson. Now, this time around, Arthur Smith was Adam Gase. Everybody wanted him. The Eagles wanted him, but they were too late to the party because they took too long to decide on Doug Peterson.
Right.
They wanted him. Now, there was a little bit Robert Saleh. Again, now your guy now. He was also a hot candidate, but typically the offensive guy gets a little bit more tint than the defensive guy. But nonetheless, he was one of the hot candidates. He was the guy. He was what everybody wanted. And he did this, and he saved Ryan Tannehill, what he does with Derrick Henry. And the Eagles, of course, interview number 10, Nick Sirianni. Nobody knows who he is. People in the league did, but, casual fans I'm talking about. Comes out day one on the podium. And by the way, he used this on Saturday night when he was talking to his team. Embarrasses himself to a number of national writers. Overmatched, can't do it. Who's this joke? Who's this rah-rah cheerleader guy? And he embarrassed, clowned, dare I say, the hot candidate that everybody wanted, who looked like a disaster to me, Jody, Arthur Smith. I mean, after he got off script, NFL coaches script the first 15 plays generally, although that's a little bit overblown. You usually get off script on the first third down. But nonetheless, I'm sitting there. Calvin Ridley looks great on that first drive. 3 targets, 3 receptions. Eagles can't do anything with him. Then they get bogged down the red zone like they always do. And I got to tell you, he didn't touch the football again in the first half. Not only didn't he touch it, they didn't throw it to him. And I had to sit and talk to a couple writers. I said, did Ridley get hurt? Did I miss something? He didn't go back to him. These coaches, man. So that's what I'm so excited about Nick Sirianni. Everything had a purpose. It wasn't perfect. I thought he was a little bit too late getting in plays at times, but that's sort of a rookie head coaching thing. You got to get used to it. It just jumps up on you so quickly, especially the 4th down plays. I thought they got him in too late. But man, he just seems to get it. And you got these coaches. There's a lot of I don't think you win a lot of games as a head coach in this league, but you can lose a lot. You can lose a lot of games. And I'm really excited about Nick Sirianni. And I'm a negative guy. People say I'm not. I'm really excited about him because he verbalizes what you have to do. And it might seem simple, but so many of these guys don't do it. Don't see what the forest for the trees. And we'll see. Arthur Smith might turn things around, but that was a bad debut. That was as bad a debut as you can get. Nick was as good as a debut as you can get.
Right. You're the tale of 2 coaches, and one couldn't have been better, one couldn't have been worse. A couple of things. Being the intrepid Eagle reporter that you are, do you know exactly which New Jersey Turnpike rest stop that
I think it was Molly Pitcher.
Was it Molly Pitcher? I had heard Joyce Gilmer, but you probably know better than I. It may have even been Richard Stockton. But yeah, thank you.
By the way, true story. The Eagles had a welcome basket ready for Ben McAdoo.
Really?
In the lobby of the Novacare company. True story.
I wonder who got that welcome basket, because we know McAdoo didn't get it.
It wasn't me.
He did the 180 and went back to New Jersey. And yes, Eagle fans should be thankful for it because he was terrible up there in New York. Here's one, and again, back to nitpicking. And I'm saying this because
That's all you can do after that week 1.
Well, I'm going to try. I'm saying it because I believe it, and we'll see how it plays out. It kind of plays into something that you said. If they're, again, in the nitpicking realm, was one thing that the Eagles didn't do offensively on Sunday was, at times, get the play in quite quickly enough. We were told before the season started, and we don't have the headsets on, so we just have to take the coaching staff at their word, that Nick was going to call the plays. He was going to relay them to Shane Steichen, who then was going to call them in to the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Is that really necessary? And it does seem to me at least somewhat time-consuming. If one of the few things that you can say didn't work out 100% perfectly game 1, it was, a couple times it seemed like the play was getting in late. Is that going to be an issue over the course of the year? I'm not even sure Is it just to get more people involved to make Shane Steichen feel good about himself because he's actually calling in the plays? If it's the head coach's call on the play, why can't he send it directly into the quarterback?
It's a good question. I might. We're going to have Shane Steichen later this morning. It's Zoom because we're not going down to the facility today. But if I get in there, I'll ask him that question. I'll try to ask Nick that question on Wednesday. That's a good question, Jody. Yeah. It does seem a little bit unnecessary. So maybe I'll ask about the communication and how it worked out. And they're going to say, worked great. But yeah, you can see, just put
might be the wrong week to ask it. You might put that one in your back pocket for next week. If it doesn't go quite as well against San Francisco's defense this week.
There's a couple things I said, just put a little note there. And that's probably one of them. Put a little notation, just put it in the back of your mind because you're going to have hiccups. The other is run support, run defense. And especially coming up against San Francisco. San Francisco is the standard when it comes to the running games in the NFL as far as how they their philosophy, their structure, what they teach. It's the most complicated rushing attack in the NFL. So that's going to be a good test for this team because if you go back to the preseason, they had a difficulty stopping the run. First quarter, really difficult trying to stop the run. And then you just look at the players. They don't have Jeremiah Trotters at linebacker who can just stop the run. So those are the couple things I just stick in your back pocket and say, okay, this has got to improve, but the Eagles are going to be a good football team.
Since it seemed you didn't know when I ran off the Pro Football Focus grades for the Eagles victory game 1, I'll double back here. I gave you the top 4 offensive players: Hurts, Goddard, Devontae, J-Jaw for his blocking capabilities, 4th graded Eagle on offense. Give me the top 4 on defense off the top of your head.
Well, Javon Hargrave.
Numero uno, and far and away, you talk about a blowout win. He actually had the highest grade. His grade on defense was higher than Jalen Hurts' grade on offense, an 89.4.
Yeah, I mean,
it's gonna be a 92.9. My bad.
He was dominant. You got to look at Josh Sweat was really good.
Number 2, Dan McMullen, you're good, very good. He was 2nd. Pretty big drop off to 80.0. Who do you think was number 3?
Well,
if you get this one right, I know you're looking it up.
No, I was looking at a text. Brandon was really good. I'm going to go Brandon Graham.
No, like number 5 or 6.
I'm trying to think of back 7 players. I thought Darius was pretty good.
He was number 4. Very good.
I don't think I thought Anthony Harris was good, but they probably didn't, knowing how they do things. Avonte missed some tackles, but he played pretty well.
Ding, 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 ding. Number 3.
There's no way.
Maddox, which you and I talked about yesterday when we had you on as a guest on your show. I thought he played really well. Yeah, he whiffed on 2 tackles. Okay, he didn't bring the guy to the ground when he should have. He had a legit shot at him, and he couldn't bring him down. But he was on Pitts, Mr. 5'10" Avonte Maddox against Mr. 6'5" Pitts, who did next to nothing all day. Now, you can also get on Arthur Smith's case. Did they do enough? Did they get him in position to make plays? Maybe Ryan didn't feel comfortable enough throwing the ball to him yet, but he's another one. After they threw it so early to Ridley, and then he just disappeared. After they went from Ridley, they went to Pitts, and then he just disappeared from their offense. I thought Maddox was challenged throughout. It seemed to me like he drew him on every single play that he went out for a pass. I thought Avonte Maddox did a really nice job, despite the fact that John McMullen and others got on his case because he missed a couple tackles.
Well, I thought missed tackles was a big thing early in the game, obviously. Again, we're nitpicking. I said you blow somebody out, you're looking for things. And that's what coaches do. I mean, they're looking things to teaching points, so to speak. You don't want to blow smoke everybody's you know what, you want to say, all right, guys, get back to work. There's still stuff to work on. I thought those 2 missed tackles were pretty bad, pretty flagrant. But when I rewatched the game, he played pretty well overall. I think Darius had a missed tackle as well, but played pretty well overall. I mean, everybody played pretty well overall. So it's tough to, the offensive line. I imagine they didn't grade the offensive line highly because of all the penalties, I would imagine. I mean, right. They dominated. When there wasn't a yellow flag on the ground, they dominated. But I just know how they do things. And that's why it's kind of unfair, their system. Like the quarterbacks, when quarterbacks play well, they're always this high level because, I mean, there's no holding calls and knocking you down at quarterback. So you put you take it with a grain of salt is what I'm trying to say. I mean, the offensive line was great. I didn't mention them because too many penalties, and I know they're going to grade them down.
And that's exactly the way the grade shook out. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. Guest time. First up today, one of our favorites does a great job covering the Eagles day in and day out for Bleeding Green Nation, BLG. Brandon Lee Gouton joins us next here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.